So all right, guys, it's already 9:05, so we can kick off. Um, all right. I hope everyone can hear me. Ella, can you hear me? Mav, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. So welcome, guys. I hope you're done with the video. So we'll start answering your questions. Please drop your questions in the room so that we'll pick up your questions from there. So the first question we have here. It says, I need more clarification on ideation is a judgment free zone. Is there any particular format that is best to use when writing a statement? All right, so let me answer this. It says, when we talk about ideation being a judgment free zone, it means that you're permitted to bring your ideas, no matter how silly it sounds, no matter how stupid it sounds, no matter how smart it sounds. Just bring the idea however it is during ideation during the ideation phase, because at that phase all we're thinking about is we're thinking of getting a solution. And there's a popular saying that in every nonsense there's sense. So no matter what it is, just bring it to the table. Nobody is judging you for thinking about the solution or the idea to solve that problem that way. It's just the angle that you have seen the solution to come from. That's what we mean when we say ideation is a judgment free zone. Then, Mav, do you want to say something? Hello, Ella, is it just me or you can't hear Mav too? Okay, if you can hear me, please drop a comment in the room session so that I want to be
Answer
sure.
the first question.
Okay.
But it was breaking at a point, sha.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, Amaka, are you still speaking?
Okay, no, you can speak.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So, because I could not hear you, that's why I was asking. And yeah, so someone said I attended the conference Saturday, and they mentioned A and B testing is under the testing phase. Um, Others could relate, but I couldn't. Okay. Yeah. So basically, when you're talking about product design, we have a bunch of testing.
Ella, please, can you hear Mav?
Of them, but B testing is when you have multiple variations and then you're trying to. Uh, can you hear me? Are you saying something,
Okay, I can hear you now, but
Amaka? Oh, okay, okay, yeah. So A and B testing is basically where you have multiple variations and you're trying to present both of them probably to the users that need to use that product, and so it can be in that format. The basic thing here is you have multiple variations you're testing from. You can look at it from the angle where you say the testing is being carried out by the team working on that particular stuff or building that particular stuff. Probably they are doing A and B testing on a strategy, right? So you can actually perform testing on a strategy. You can perform testing on product. You can perform testing on the deliverables at the end of the day to the user, right? So that's basically what A and B testing stands for. You have multiple variations, multiple options, and you're trying each of them out. Based on what you're testing for, you can be testing for performance. You can be testing for usability, right? So there's so many options you can test from. Um, yeah, and I'm sure your question is coming from the angle of a designer. So please go ahead and yeah, let me know if you need more explanation on that as well.
so okay,
All right.
I think I skipped this one. It said, is there a particular format to use when writing a problem statement? There's no particular format.
Yeah. Yeah. So So Amaka, I don't know when you are still speaking or if you're done speaking.
Oh, okay, I'm done speaking.
Yeah, so I keep thinking maybe maybe the network is affecting either myself or you from your end. So I don't know. Sorry about that. Yeah. So basically, there is no specific format, and so when I give some of my response, Amaka is bringing up a feedback from the point of the angle of a product designer. I'm also bringing my feedback from the angle of a product engineer, right? Which means we also involved. We're also involved in both designs and also in the product development. Um, yeah. So someone is saying my voice. If other complain, I'll just have to switch my network.
Okay, I can hear you. Hello, Mav, I can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. I just had to quickly switch the network. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. So let me see. So I think I would also like to touch on this stuff that you answered earlier, Amaka. The ideation is a judgment-free zone. Yeah. So basically, what Amaka said was 100% correct. The idea is when it comes to when you get to the ideation stage, everybody on the project or on that part of conducting that user research or something, you're free to propose your idea, what you think would work. But remember, you have to also stay within the boundary of or the context of the project, right? So let's assume you're working, and I love to use examples from businesses, right? So let's assume we're building a product, or let's assume we have an existing product, and then you are invited as a UX person. They say they want to add like a feature, right? They want to add a feature to the product, and they want you to fix it in a specific position that will be perfect for an existing user base to use that particular feature. So let's look at it this way, kind of like a widget on a dashboard. So there's a dashboard. You already have like 200 to 300 users using that dashboard, and they want just one single feature. Now you as the professional, you have to tell them what to do or how to go about it, right? And I usually use these examples in this particular example in interview settings. So some people will begin to say, okay, you can try this, you can try that. Yeah, of course, you can try out a lot of things, but remember, you already have a lot of users. And maybe one thing I think you could propose is to say, okay, let's go ahead and run a questionnaire through the existing user base, using that dashboard. And sometimes you get to discover that, proposing something that is not sounding, exactly like like a solution to try. I mean, it might be the smartest decision to make, because you remember you're trying to make the experience easier for these people, not yourself. So I think sometimes even a simple questionnaire can just be the solution, because they will tell you what they prefer, and when you look at the number to implement. Yeah, I think it's the same person. Oh, okay. He was also asking about the ambiguity rule. Amaka, do you want to take that? Amaka, are you there?
Okay, yeah, I'm here. No,
Do
you
you, do
can.
you want to take? Do you want to take that, or I should take that?
No, you can take that.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So I think if you look at the the material, the PDF material, basically, I think what you should understand from there is uh, but yeah, I'm trying to break it down. I'm trying to break it down. There are some terms, that are entering my head. I feel it to sound too. I feel it to sound okay. So I feel it to sound too big. I was trying to give an example with FRODs and PRODs. Amaka, is it possible? Do you have like an easier explanation, to talk about that? Maybe um, from the angle of breaking things down into probably smaller chunks. You know,
Okay.
do you have a simple? Do you have an example to give?
Okay.
Because the idea of ambiguity is it's not something you can do without in any project, right? I mean,
Yeah.
based on the amount of propositions coming from clients, coming from the people in the team, coming from the engineering teams and all that, people will definitely propose that looking at what they know or what they are experienced with, your idea might be too big, right? The way you're trying to envision implementing that or coming up with a solution to that problem might be too large. So I think sometimes you also need to understand that. I mean, there's always that freedom. There's always that space to see things, from a very large perspective. Of course, that is very normal, and breaking these things down into smaller chunks might also be the best way to approach design thinking problems, right? Approach coming up with solutions using the design thinking framework. So of course, I mean, the idea of the ambiguity rule is that ambiguity is not something you can do without, right? I mean, it most times would creep in into the projects, either based on your user requirements or based on the implementation strategy that the team is thinking about. And what you have to do is to learn to manage ambiguity, because probably knowledge would always, or most times, be limitless. Within the context of what you're trying to implement. So yeah, so that freedom should be there, so that you can pick up a solution probably from scratch, and break these things down up to the level that you have chunks, and you can then start solving these things one at a time. So yeah, I think if that was clear, I was looking at explaining that from what we call
The
what is this
the
called in
product
systems?
requirement. So when you're looking
Yeah,
at
yeah, kind of.
product requirement.
Yeah, kind of like the product requirement document. You have something very large, very big use case, and then people start coming up with different ideas, and it begins to connect to other things. So an example, a user is telling you they want to be able to upload status. That's just a simple requirement. Now, when it gets to the team, when it gets to the user research team, you discover that the idea of status is way more than just uploading any random thing. You can be uploading a particular image, it can be a video. Probably you might be surprised that the users might say status sometimes might be audio. I mean, it's weird, but yes, that can be something they want. Remember, they just told you status, but you begin to discover, audio, video, pictures. Now you start thinking about, okay, what is the maximum size of what they should be able to upload? Is it 1 megabyte? Is it 3 megabytes? What is the length? So you see that the idea begins to grow, right? What is the length, and yeah, what kind of content? So if someone uploads something that has pornographic content, what should happen? So a lot of things, a lot of ideas begin to come in, and before you know it, when you continue researching on that particular scope or that particular topic, you discover that the idea is already becoming extremely large, and it gets to a point where it seems very huge, very big. And yeah, so it's something you would always get to when working on something, when working on a project. Yeah, so that's something you should always have in mind. Can we get resources or more explanation on the different types of testing? Okay, so I think I would love to narrow this to different types of user testing. Because the moment I see testing, a lot of things around testing comes to mind. But yeah, I think we can do that. Amaka, I believe we can, right?
Yeah, we
We
can.
can get Yeah, we can get some links for you and the others. We can share, and of course, we are going to learn about user testing as well.
As we
In the future, we'll not do that. Yeah. Amaka, sorry, I think I've taken too much, so just go ahead and pick up
okay.
on. Yeah.
All right. So just let me just say this for user testing. User testing is okay for the A and B testing is more or less you testing two things against each other to see which works better. So I can push this through in relation to digital marketing. Now someone might decide to push out two different designs. One might be just a picture and the other might be a video. You test them at the same time to see which people will react to. That's just A and B testing, testing two different creatives against each other to see which people are likely to feel or work easily with. But for the links you're asking for, no problem, we can provide that. Then someone said, the screens we do on Figma, is that what is called a prototype? Mm, okay, let me
Mm,
answer this.
okay.
So what we do on Figma is we create our designs and we use frames to create those designs on Figma. Now, when you talk about a prototype, prototype is more or less when you have designed all your screens together and then you want to make them interactive so that it looks like a real app. Then you start to connect the screens together, then you end up playing it. That's when it becomes a prototype. So I'll just say prototype is connecting all the screens you need to form that all the screens that make up a particular app together to make them interact as an app or as a make
Yeah,
believe app.
yeah. But I think maybe we should also understand, the context. I like to always make reference back to the context of his question, or I think, was it a, yeah? I like to make reference back to the context of the question the person is asking. So when you say prototype, are you referring to, coming up with something you can present to a user, just to see what the idea, would look like, or you're actually referring to prototyping in design. So I think it's good to be sure, because if you're referring to prototyping in design, then yes, what Amaka said is the perfect response to that. But if you're referring to, say, you're having like a conversation with a user. So let's assume I am the user, right? Amaka is conducting user research, and she's trying to figure out what I really want, and then I tell her, okay, this is what I want. It's possible for Amaka and Emanuela and maybe the rest of the teammates to quickly come up with a sketch on paper, and probably just have like a mobile frame printed on paper, and come up with some kind of sketch, with your marker and all that, and then you present it to me, and then you ask me, okay, now this is a very simple sketch. Is this what you're expecting? Right. So you have the home screen, you have this, you have that, and this is what the flow would look like. When you click on this button, all right, give me that paper. Now this is the next paper. This is the screen you see when you click on the other one. I think. Okay. So I think it said it's referring to prototyping in design. So I would say, yeah. I think Amaka just gave you the perfect answer. All right. So let's move on to another question then. Go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. Yeah, but always understand that context really matters here. So it's usually implied by what you're designing for mobile frames phones. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
that's the answer for sorry, ma'am.
go on, Amaka, please go on.
Okay, I think that's the answer for how do you know the right frames and sizes to use when designing
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the right answer for that as well. It's usually implied on what you're designing
designing
for.
for.
Exactly. So yeah. So, can we say prototype is the same with minimum viable product? Yeah. So I think this is something I was actually discussing with someone, and I would say it depends on the context of it depends on the user, or probably the client you're designing for. An MVP should be something usable, right? Something that can be used. But um, having a prototype uh, is not, having a prototype on the design level is not an MVP, right? So having a prototype on the design level is just, something that is interactive, so you understand what the final application might, look like. But it's not functional, right? And it's interactive. I mean, in terms of design, it's great, but it's not functional. So I think an MVP should be functional. That's why it's called, a minimum viable product. It's like saying, at least this is something, we should be expecting something more, right? This is functional, but this is in light to what we want to really build, right? So an MVP should be functional. So in the context of product engineering, right? I know we're not doing engineering here, but at the end of the day, we are all trying to design and build something, make it functional and make it realistic at the end of the day. So I would say prototyping in design is totally different from what you would call an MVP, right? Yeah, it's totally different from what I think. Maybe you can call after prototyping. You just implemented a couple of transitions on your high fidelity design. So I don't think we should. Yeah, that should not be called an MVP. Amaka, yeah, you can also contribute to that. So please, next questions. Keep sending in your questions. We have limited time, okay, guys. We just have from now till 10 p.m. So go ahead and drop more questions so we can take as many as possible.
Okay, I think someone just dropped it. Said what? I think you're saying what if you're designing a project that is going to be used for both phones and laptop? It's still same thing. You pick what you want to design for. If you're designing for a laptop, you pick the frame size for a laptop, you pick the frame size for a mobile phone. So you choose what you want to design for when you're designing for phones generally, whether you're designing for Android or iOS. And then we have something called
Yeah, and
web app. Amav, you were saying something.
that you use, they have predefined screen size you can work. No, no, no. I was just saying you have predefined screens. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. All right. So
Amaka,
that
did you hear me?
yes, I heard you.
Yeah, yeah. I said I was just saying you have different screen sizes with the design tool. So you can just click on that particular frame, and you're sure that that was the frame you need. So you just put your design on that frame. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. What's the next question we have there? How can I create a user avatar? What? How can you create a user? Okay, I think I skipped some questions. Did I? So,
I think
can
okay.
you
Can you
talk
talk?
more on the empathy map? Oh, okay. Okay.
Um,
Should I take that?
okay. You can start. I'll just add what you have to say.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So, empathy mapping is very. I think it's one of the early things you would. It's one of the early tools, right? You would use when performing or when conducting user research. And of course, it's also kind of like a step you take during design thinking because you really want to understand the user. You want to deeply understand the user. So basically, it's kind of like a visualization, right? You have this diagram. You divide into multiple parts, and basically, what you use it to do is you use it to try to understand the user very well. Understand what the user thinks. What they want. How they feel, and probably the feedback they also give you, like what they say. You put these things in different sections of kind of like a box kind of shape. We can't share images. We can't share our screen here, but I would have loved to. Maybe you can just do a quick Google search as well. You'll see, like this square shaped drawing, where you have a section where you put in. So while you're interviewing the user, the user says, okay, I want an app. I want to be able to upload my status every single day, when I feel happy or when I am sad. And then you ask the user, okay, so why do you want to do this, right? And, the user can start explaining, okay, so basically I think it is ideal that people, get to, understand my feelings so that they know how to approach me, when I'm happy or when I'm sad or this or that. So, okay, so how do you intend doing this? Like, what kind of thing do you want to upload? Is it like a video, or is it like an emoji, or is it like a GIF or something? Should it be animated? The user says, yeah, I mean, it would make sense if this is animated. Or why do you really want it, to be animated? What's the importance of having this thing animated? Why not a static image, right? And why do you want a video? Like, what exactly is the reason? So you're not asking these questions to drive the user away from you know from what they want. You're asking this because you really want to understand what they want and why they want that particular thing. So you need to understand how they feel, what they're thinking, what they're saying, and how they also plan, how they envision to do this thing. So it's a good way. It's a good way to really. I think it would also help in having a good usability testing at the end of the day. It will also help you in understanding the journey mapping. So there are so many areas that the empathy map would. I think basically you need an empathy map to conduct a good research, right? You need to understand the user. I mean, that is it. So Amaka, please go ahead and yeah.
Okay, just to add to what he says, simply it's just about creating a box that tells you where you show how the user see, what they feel, how they think, and what they want. So that's what empathy is about. As we move on in the class, you get to understand how the empathy map works and how you can use it when you're interviewing your users. Because you majorly use
Yeah,
empathy map when you are talking to users or you're interviewing users for a particular product. So for the next
exactly.
okay. So for the next question, he said, for starters, how do we avoid running into tackling wicked problems? And how can we go about defining proper problem statements? Okay, so I would start add to this the math can continue. So for starters, when it comes to tackling wicked problems, you really can't avoid running into it because the wicked we refer to in this case is not evil, but it's more like handling a problem that seems resistant to resolution. So the more you look at it, the more it feels complex and have interdependencies. But it's not that you can't solve it. It's just that the more you try to solve it, the more you get more solutions or more things get to come into it, and then you have so many interdependency. It's just like the way humans move and behave. What we want, our needs are insatiable, so it can be likened to a wicked problem. The more you decide to work on a particular problem, the more you see that okay, this has to be added to this has to be added to that. That's why you notice that even with the apps we use, every day it keeps updating. Now I wouldn't want to classify it as a wicked problem, but somehow it's wicked in the sense that every day you have to evolve that app to suit what users are doing, and every day you have to come up with interdependency. So for starters, you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
You just can't avoid it. It's just something you just have to keep working with, then you modify it over time as you progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so that's correct. That's correct. So I think what I would just add in there is focus on the fact that it's not something you can just avoid completely. I think it depends on the problem being presented to you, and you get to know that this is a wicked problem when you start conducting research and you still and the dependencies keep growing, right? You want to do this, okay, this is dependent on that, and okay, so now that we have this, how can we are we getting closer to the solution? You keep finding out the closer you get, the more dependencies pop up, right? So yeah, I think that's basically so. And I think you also asked how can we go about defining proper problem statements? Yeah, so basically, of course, you would have templates, you would have a sample, but I think so. When you say go about defining, you're actually going to your problem statement is largely dependent on the description of the problem being given to you initially, right? So your problem statement, the one you are going to come up with, is definitely going to also be is going to be dependent based on what is it called, Amaka? Sorry, I think I'm skipping that. The requirements provided by the user.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
I think
the brief provided by the user, the person.
yeah, Yeah, so I think the brief provided by the user. So of course, the user has a problem, or maybe, and when I say user, it can be a company, right? It can be a person. So there's a problem on ground to tackle, and that problem is presented to you. Then you have to formulate something out of that problem. So of course, there are some things you have to keep in mind. You have to always make sure you state the current problem properly, right? I think it's called the unsatisfactory condition. I think that's what, yeah, most times that's what it is referred to, because at least there's always a particular stage on ground, right? So the user wants to be able to do this, but this is what they can do right now, and it's not good enough, right? So you have to first describe it. You have to make sure that it's easy to understand, and then you have to also try to state the impact of that current problem to the business, right? The negative impact, and you have to make sure that whatever you're writing is really descriptive, and at the same time someone can read through and understand at a glance, right? So you have to describe the problem, the background of the problem, the impact of that problem to the business, which most times will be negative, right? And then you also describe the objective, your objective, on what you need to do. So the user said, okay, this is the problem. Then okay, how did this problem start, and what is the current situation on ground, and what is the impact, what's the negative impact of this problem to the company or to the business, or to the users, and then what do you want us to do, right? So okay, this is what should be done. So we'll definitely provide a template for that, but these four things I just outlined are basically kind of like the blueprint, so coming up with a very good problem statement. So yeah, and I think that should be fine. The next one I can see here is how can I create
A user avatar.
a user avatar? Okay, so I believe your question is related to a design thing, right? More like the user avatar, the design token when implementing, like a user profile page, or I guess. So
I
when
think
we
so.
get to working with Figma, we'll definitely cover that.
Okay.
What's the difference between prototype and mockups? Okay, so Amaka, do you want to take this, or I should take it?
Okay, let me just take it.
All right. So the mock-up, which is also referred to as the high fidelity design. Yeah, so I think the major difference you need to understand there is when you say something is a prototype, it is interactive, right? So you can actually you can design and prototype with your design tool like Figma, or you can use some advanced tools to make your prototype more realistic. A prototype is something interactive. A user can click a button, it's taking them to another page. You can actually even enter some details, kind of like email, password. That interaction is there. The mockup is just, the design file, your screen. And of course, you need the mockup, to create the prototype. And yeah, I think I would also like to, I love to really speak on this from both, a kind of like, a combination of both design and engineering, so you don't get it mixed up. So when you say prototype and mock-up, I'm considering the prototype in the context of you designing, right? So yeah, the major difference is that the prototype is interactive. You use some tools to make it interactive, and the mockup is just the design file. If you ask the same question to other people, that's why I'm trying to make sure we clarify on this so you're very sure. Because prototype can actually be something functional, maybe like a mobile app prototype. So we're not going to that context right now. So I hope you understand me. Next question, Amaka, you can take that. Well,
Okay,
you can
said.
take the next one.
All right, said. Is there a difference between UI UX designer and a product designer, or are they the same? Now, for a UI UX designer, let me split it up. It's called user interface and user experience designer. Now, basically, they work with the interaction of the app, how you expect the website or app to behave, what you expect to see, the color, the interface, and all of that. That is when you have to do with UI UX design. Now, a product designer is more or less an overseer. They have absolute knowledge of everything pertaining the product,
Yeah.
down from the
So
product requirement documents to the FRD, future required document. It's more like they know how the whole process will flow out, and they're able to supervise both the UI UX designer
can you
and
guys let me
the
please?
engineers. Mav, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think we could not hear you for some time. Your network, yeah.
Oh,
So we
okay.
could not hear you for. Probably you can just quickly take that again. Let's rush through the other questions too.
Okay, is I said like for the UI UX designer, they deal basically with what the app or website is supposed to look like, what the interaction is going to be like, the colors, how the interface will interact, what goes up, and just basically how the app functions and operates, both for typography, color, cities, and all of that. While a product designer is someone who oversees the process. So it's more like a manager over the product itself. So they are aware of the product requirement document, both for engineering and design. They can monitor the product from beginning to end. So they understand what it
All right.
means.
So when you work in a startup, Amaka, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Amaka, let me take that. Your network, probably you can switch to another provider. Let me take that, okay?
All right.
All right. So yeah, so as I was saying, the UI there means user interface, which means you're focused on building the components on the design, your buttons, your dashboard, those stuffs. The UX means you're conducting some research to understand what you're even going to work on. So basically, UI UX is kind of like a combination. Then implementation of a product. So I'll give you a more practical example, then you would get to understand that. Yeah, so you can be a UI UX designer in Microsoft, and probably what you'll be working on is the implementation of a UI or conducting research as regards a particular page, right? Some of the controls or like the menus, right? So of course you're focused on the component. Right? So, but as a product designer, I'm UX to product design after working in the industry for like 3-4 years, right? So that is because they've been able to get to the level where their focus is, beyond just components or prototyping or presentation. They are now managing maybe like a product design team, right? Or maybe they are managing like a design system, where they have to they also conduct user research and the rest of them, but they focus more on managing the design that goes into the product as a whole, the entire life cycle of that product, not just a specific component or specific section of the product. So someone is saying, is the Q and A still going on? I can't hear anything. Please check your network. In design thinking phase, empathize is okay. Do they have to follow a specific order? If you are starting out, with a particular research project, ideally you would have to like move from one stage to the other. But trust me, in an agile environment, I think now things will change, right? Because
Yeah,
after defining and ideating and prototyping and then testing with the user, which is the user testing, you discover that, oh, okay, the user said, oh, did I tell you that I wanted a video upload on my status? Oh, absolutely. Maybe probably I was drunk that day. We don't want videos, so we just want images. And can you please add, like I want the time, when I post the status, I want the time and the date to appear, right? So you begin to ask another round of question. Okay, so why do you want the time and date to appear? What's the specific reason? Like, what's the reason behind you wanting? So you see, you've gone back, probably a step or two step backwards again. So in an agile environment, it's not compulsory to follow that specific order, because things would always change. Amaka, please, once you're back and you can speak, let me know.
okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
So it's still on, yes, I think I can hear you now. So yeah, I took that question because we could not hear you. So if maybe you can go on and pick up another question.
Oh, all right. So this question says, please, how can I present my design like the mobile frames in a mobile phone? I noticed while looking up on designs made by much experienced designers that their screens are usually displayed in such a way that it seems already live in a phone or a laptop. Okay, so I understand what you're saying. Like when you go on Behance or Dribble, you notice that the designs are put in a phone. So what just happened is they used a mockup. They didn't use a software like Illustrator or Photoshop. Now, in the Figma community, you can search for mockup screens. Then you search for screens according to what you designed. So if you designed using a Android screen, you search for mockups that are Android screens. Now, the mockups are phones that has been designed. So what they usually do is you export your design, then input it into the mockup so it fits in since you're using the same frame size and the same size for the mockup. So you don't design using any other tool. You just find a mockup. And the other ways to go
Yeah.
about it.
So if you don't understand what Amaka is trying to explain, you definitely get to that stage where you do something similar. So so you get to that stage where she would definitely show you an example on how to work on something, come up with something like that. Um, yeah. So I think a question here. Uh, Please, what should a UI designer who comes up with with ideas, okay, after user research and that, but don't really know how to present this idea on a design on Figma? Well, okay. So a UI designer who comes up with an idea. So I think there's kind of like a mix up somewhere. So you did not say UI UX person. Now you just said UI designer. Um, and you said after user research. So basically, if you're doing user research, then of course, you are conducting user experience research as well. So I would say UI UX. And after coming up with an idea, and I think first off, you need to understand that in your work environment, it's even possible that your idea can just be in a PowerPoint file when you're presenting to a user. I'm just making you understand this. It must not be uh, the things you see on Dribble, the designs, those things you see on Dribble. I mean, in a real working environment, you definitely don't see them like that all the time. These clients or companies don't have enough time to wait for you to come up with, you know, your beautiful or silly designs. They most times don't really care about that. Just come up with something, propose a solution. It can be on a Word document, it can be on a kind of like a blog kind of web page, very simple stuff. So it's not, you don't need to always design, right? Um, yeah. So, but when you say you don't want to present it as on Figma, of course, There are templates, and I like it when people understand the values of working with templates. You don't have to always design these things from scratch. We have a couple of templates we can also share with you when we get to teach you, presentation, and yeah, so we'll get to cover those stuff. And definitely, I mean, now you guys are not seeing some practicals, but remember, we are working with the curriculum, so we're going to get there, and you will do most of these things. Okay, so I would leave that question for now, and okay, it can be done on Figma. What's the next question here? Okay, so I
So
don't think these are questions.
I think this one is just like a comment. It said, sometimes I feel this design thing is not for us. Design is for you, it's just that you have to search for inspiration. I think the first class we had, we talked about design isn't about originality. Now, when you search for inspiration from,
Lost again for some time.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. So, I saw
And
something. Can anyone hear me?
all right, so you know what? It's breaking. I mean, the lag is too much, so probably you can just reconnect again or something.
All right, let me do that.
And I understand. I understand. I mean, I was listening
Yes, mind yourself there, work for me. Hmm?
to network providers that claim to do, very well, Fiber One and the rest of them. They sometimes mess you up as well. So someone said, I have a question. I don't know how to explain.
Hmm.
Okay, go
Explain it
ahead and
how you
explain the way you
can.
can. Will probably help you structure the question better. So I usually hear the word mockup. Maybe I should have asked, do we download the mockup corresponding? Yeah, so yeah, you can. For now, we have a lot of mockups you can download for free. Community versions, and you can download these mockups and work with them. But of course, as you progress, you get to the level where you don't just download, but you design mockups for other people as well. So yeah, so it's not. I'm trying my best not to use some terms like it's not difficult, or it's not rocket science, because I feel when you start off with something, sometimes it feels difficult, right? And yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say here is just understand that as you progress, you would definitely, all those things you see on Dribble, you see on Behance, probably not everything. I'm not referring to some of the advanced, Adobe Illustrator designs, or animation or animated characters. But I'll tell you that there are a lot of tools that makes these things easier, at least compared to what you see. People working in the studio, like big design studios, building, right? I think someone used Figma to design. If any of you have watched Toy Stories, someone used Figma to design the character, and it was looking very realistic. To tell you what you can actually do with Figma. And I've also seen people build, complete communities, like and yeah, advanced illustrators, 3D illustrators with this simple design tool. So someone is saying it's difficult to type. Yeah, maybe you're not used to typing on social media. I understand that. Just go ahead and type, huh? All right. So,
Um,
um,
okay, someone said you just mentioned Illustrator. We'll be using Illustrator while designing. No, we will not be using Illustrator while designing. Hope
yeah.
you
So
heard
we
me.
won't be using. Yeah, I heard you. So I believe he heard you. We won't be using it for this during the training. I mean, we're not using Illustrator, but if you know how to use Illustrator, you can go ahead and do crazy stuffs with it. But we're not doing that. We're just working with Figma and a couple of other design tools. Um,
Okay, so this one says, we designers are also users to an app or something. If I notice developers or designers haven't done what I need slash want as a user.
Amaka, you're off again.
You hear me now? Hello, can you hear me?
Even after defining ideating, yeah, we could not hear you. I can hear you now, but I'm sure you said a lot of things, and yeah, we missed that. So yeah, I can
I
hear
was
you
just
now.
trying to take a question actually.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. But I mean, once you start taking the question, the network kinds of, I mean, it kind of, you know, goes off.
I've
So
switched, so I hope this works this time.
okay, go on.
It says, we designers are also users to an app or something. If I notice developers or designers haven't done what I need as a user and I decide to do it and collaborate with a developer, my question is, how will I go about my empathy stage? How do I go about user research and all? Where do I start from? Hmm. Um, I'm thinking of a way to break this down. Mav, can you hear me?
Probably, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
we could not
hello,
hear you.
Samaka. I think you're having a lag or your network is having issues. So maybe you could probably switch to a better network
My dear,
because it
Yeah,
keeps on
the
breaking.
name.
please do.
100 times.
Please do. Okay, so let me take it from here. So I'm still scrolling. So you just mentioned a lot. Okay, so I think we've passed that already. Um, we've passed that already.
Ha.
Who is that? Idris? Okay. User. Okay, yeah. So okay, I think I'm just getting here. Imagine I've been looking at. I forgot to scroll. So basically, um, when you say how do you go about the empathy stage, how do you go about user research and all, where do you start from? So you're not a developer, right? You're a designer, so I think you have to probably focus on what you need to do. um, if the developers are not doing what you have implemented on your design, that is the responsibility of the agency or company you're working with to resolve with the engineers. Of course, I mean you have to complain, that is normal, but you have to focus more on what you're doing. And when they present these things, you make them understand this is not what I designed, this is not my work. You guys have not I've not gotten the perfect or the right implementation to what I designed. So I mean, you always have managers or seniors that you can always report to. But of course, it doesn't need to really get to your stage or to your table. The seniors or the executives or the managers will definitely. I mean, they have eyes, right? So when they see that this is wrong, they will definitely call on the developers to fix it up. So you focus on your empathy stage, on your research, and yeah, so I think it doesn't affect your research in any way. It shouldn't. Um, and if it would, you definitely have to inform your managers, and they will sort that out. That is more of a managerial, kind of issue. It's not going to affect your job or your research in any way. Okay. So, okay. Any other question? Let me see. Let's go down. You're a user and designer. Okay. So you might have to be switching roles, just like Tauma. Wow. Okay. I think I'm beginning to read everything. Probably I should just keep quiet and look at the question first before. So someone says she's finding it difficult. Maybe someone should assist. You don't necessarily need. Do you need to create an account first before you can download? No, I think you can just search for Figma download on Google, and just download it first. I mean, it's yeah, but you need to create an account. I mean, you should create an account, right? So go ahead and create an account. Yeah, downloading it should not be I think maybe you can check your network, yeah, or you can try to check if it's already installed and maybe uninstall and install again, or maybe someone can. someone can assist you. We have the public hangout, so someone can jump on a call with you and assist you. So it's 10 p.m. already. So this is very. I think this is a recommendation, not a question. So I'm going to skip that.
Um,
I'm finding it difficult to. Okay.
she said, that's not what I
That's not
feel.
okay. All right. So maybe that's why you said you could not type it. Okay. So wow,
Let me
Maka,
see.
can we bring her to the stage to just ask that particular question?
Okay, we can do that. Yes. So she just has to raise
Okay.
her
So
hand.
let's
Design,
just do let's just do like 5 minutes. So just quickly bring her to the stage. Design. What's that?
design lover.
Okay. Design lover. Okay.
So I just invited
Yeah.
her
So
to the stage.
I hope she doesn't run away. Design lover, please join the stage and ask your question.
So you can unmute yourself.
Just join now. Thanks for inviting me. Okay, what I actually meant was, what if, let me use an app for example. What if there's no social media? What if there's no app for me to interact properly with my friends? And I really need to interact with my friends. I'm seeing myself as a user now. If I
Okay.
say, okay, let me start with empathy stage and all, and user research and all, what if others don't feel how I feel? What if I'm the one that know how I'm feeling? That okay, this is what I need. There should be an app for chatting, but I haven't seen any app for chatting. So I really need to develop one. So I decide to like okay, kind of design and talk to a developer to help me arrange them, help me arrange my screens to make it an app. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I get you. Well, Maka, do you want to say something before I? Yeah, but I think I understand that. Amaka, are you
Trying
there?
to put it together. Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
So I'm trying to put it together so you can answer her.
Okay, all right. So basically, I think what I see that she's asking, of course, as a designer or an engineer, you get to the point where you see there's a problem, you want to build something around that, and yeah, you feel you are the one seeing that problem, and probably you're also having that problem. So you want to build, but of course, you cannot interview yourself, right? So if I'm getting you correctly, you can respond, right? So you can't interview yourself. So how do you get to work on the empathy and all the empathy map and those stuffs, right? Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's
Design lover. That's exactly. Yeah. So basically, as you said earlier, right? You figured out that this problem is there. You want to chat with your friends. Of course, now you mentioned friends, which means you also want your friends to use this application. So then, I mean, they are also part of the user base, for this application. So yes, you should interview them. Yeah, I mean, if you are the only person seeing this problem and they are not seeing the problem, and you really want to build this stuff, it means you're building this for yourself, and you can't chat with yourself, right? So there must be someone, the ideal candidate, for conducting user research. So you have to interview them, and yeah, you are a designer. We agree. You're also a user. You've perceived this problem. If the other person is not having the same issue, then yeah, maybe it's not just a problem. Maybe you're just overreacting. Or maybe hope you
okay.
understand
Why
me.
I actually asked this question is because this morning I was listening to your view, and one of the hosts actually said there should be an app where people should inspect what every governor in every state have done. So I was like, okay, yes, that's true. There's no app like that. I can't just go to what Google and start typing, okay, what have Governor Dakwa Abiodun done to Ogun State? What have this governor done to this state? So there should be an app for me to check that easily instead of using Google. And I felt that okay, if someone wants to develop an app like that, and okay, she's saying it. I don't know if other people also feel the same. I also feel the same. How will I go about interviewing people? What if the response I'm getting is not actually what It's not actually how I'm feeling.
Yeah, so
So that
Amaka would always say when we are doing this stuff, so Amaka would always tell the team, how you feel doesn't really matter here, right? I mean, you are a user, we agree, but if the host or the person said that there should be an app for this, the main question is, okay, so I believe that host wants that app, right? So now you already have one candidate for research, the host, the person, and the next thing you have to do is to start asking others questions. So you can come up with a questionnaire, right? And then you distribute that questionnaire and ask them, okay, do you want or would you use an app that would show you the current developments or projects, from different states, from different governors, right? And then based on the feedback you get, then you will know if it is right, or maybe it is required. Even if it, I mean, you will know if it's needed, because if we are to be realistic, I mean, trust me, there should be an app for everything. There should be an app to probably wash my clothes, right? Do the dishes. I mean, I need those apps, right? So, how many people need those apps? So, is it important? I believe most of the guys here need the app, right? But is it realistic? No. So, sometimes maybe what you just need is a simple website, right? Where people
Yeah.
can just search for something. I mean, you can't install all the apps on your phones. I mean, even you saying it now, imagine, okay, after implementing this, we now say, okay, we also need an app for all the senators, right? To see what they're even doing, because we don't know what they're doing. I mean, or we need an app for all the presidents in Africa, to know what they're doing. Come on, everything should not. I think sometimes, probably what you just need is a simple page, or kind of like a blog that can, outline some of these things. Maybe have you seen people working with newsletters? At the end of every month, they send out newsletters. I mean, that is a good way of solving a problem. And the major thing is you're solving a problem. You're not here to just build apps, right? You're solving a problem, and I think that's the end. That's the end goal. Yeah. Okay.
thank you
All right.
very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. So I think we are done. We're done, right? Every other question will probably be answered in the chat. So, guys, if you can attend to any other question, go ahead and assist. If you want me to attend to the question you drop, go ahead and tag my name, my username to that question, and I will do my best to answer. But for now, we're ending this session. Apologies, we're 7 minutes late, to end the session. So have a wonderful night. For those of you that are joining us from other time zones, thank you for joining, and do have a great time. I'll see you in the next session. Bye.
All right, guys. Good night, everyone.